Listen, I don't want any more bullshit.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained? What's up, my fellow Colts fans? Welcome back to the Bullshit Free Colts podcast. I'm your host, Harkon Ajala, aka the Bad Boy Genius. And again, as always, I want to welcome you to the world's #1 only official podcast for all things Colts. And here's what sets us apart from everybody else. This is the only place you're going to hear everything you want to about the Colts with no coach speak, no spin, no PR, no political correctness, and most importantly, as always, you know what time it is, no bullshit. So I want to welcome you back because I know that if you're listening here, you're like me. You're the type of person that wants to hear the real talk, not the shield talk. All right, so appreciate you being here. We just watched a hell of a fucking game yesterday between the Colts and the Texans. And look, this is one of the best games, the most entertaining and thrilling games of the year. The Texans were red hot. Deshaun Watson, if they were winning, he'd be in the MVP conversation, and he did not disappoint. But listen, before we jump into that game, and there's a whole lot to talk about there, let me ask you now, just go ahead and smash that like button up right now from the jump. It really helps us out with the YouTube algorithm. It helps YouTube know that we don't have bots listening here. We don't have dumb motherfuckers. We have people who are real and want to hear some good shit, and we bring value. So again, smash that like button. Go ahead and subscribe now if you haven't already so you can get all of these podcast videos, and share this with other Colts fans. Now, before we jump into this game, the Colts go down to NRG Stadium in Houston, Texas, a.k.a. the house that T.Y. built, a.k.a. T.Y. the mayor's mansion, and knock off the Texans in a thriller, 26-20. Like I said, before we jump into this one, let's just get the elephant in the room out of the way. If you noticed last week, I didn't say much about the blowout the Colts suffered at the hands of the Titans. And here's why. It's because in spite of all the talk and narratives and perspectives and shit that people concocted last week to try to keep your attention, to try to get your attention, to try to keep you listening, and telling you that there was incredible significance and things to be learned from that game, that game proved the Titans were towering contenders, which they just lost on the road to the Browns yesterday, so whatever. Or that the Colts were pretenders. They weren't as good as they appeared when they faced up to a determined Titans. All that's bullshit. Here's what really was going on. There really wasn't much to be learned from that game, except that LaRaven Clark is not the answer at left tackle. Okay, that's about the only thing we learned for sure in that game. And even that was suspect because after a shaky-ass, first series or two, even LaRaven looked decent. But here's the truth of that matter. The only thing that really happened is the Colts were missing 6 starters, 2 of which being their strongest defensive players, one of which being probably their most impactful defensive player in DeForest Buckner. And if you take away DeForest Buckner and you add Derrick Henry, who's like a fucking cyborg, human cyborg, running machine, and then you take a team like the Colts just not playing well, what you get is a fucking blowout loss. And what's really weird about the thing is, in the second half, the Colts actually made it a lot closer than it should have been. The Colts reined them in the second half and only gave up 3 points. The defense, anyway, they got a cheap score at the very end and made it look worse than it did on an onside kick attempt by the Colts. But again, look, no matter how good a team is, every year you're going to have a game like that where just everything goes wrong and you play like trash and you get fucking blown out. Doesn't matter who it is. I knew that this game, much like the first Tennessee game and the Green Bay game, I knew that this game was going to be the one that really told us a lot. Why? Because after losing to the Titans, there was a lot fucking riding on this game. We were going to see how did the Colts respond to that back-breaking, embarrassing blowout loss to the Titans. How did they respond going on the road to play a hot team with their back against the wall? Because, look, that losing to Tennessee caused some serious pressure on the Colts in terms of the playoff race. Not only did they drop behind the Titans in the race for the division, but that left our division record at 1-2, and then we lost a bunch of games inside the AFC. We lost to the Browns. We lost to the Ravens. Not good. We're in really a pressure position going on the road. And like I said, playing against a hot team and an unbelievable ambient player, as Rick Venturi would call him, like Watson. I mean, there's no way that if you're a defensive player or defensive coordinator, you're watching the fucking tape on Watson. There's no way you're not up all night the night before the game praying and maybe trying to get somebody to put a fucking voodoo spell on this dude, trying to figure out how to stop him. Again, you're on the road, and again, you're missing Anthony Costanzo, one of the most irreplaceable players on this team. And then we wanted to see, is T.Y. really going to resurge, or was what we saw last week a mirage? Jonathan Taylor was going to be back. Was he going to, really be taking a step forward, or was what we saw a couple weeks ago a mirage? So, like I said, I knew that this game against the Texans was really going to be one where we were going to learn a whole fucking lot about who this team really was, because it's showtime now. It's winning time now, baby. We're going into the final month of the season, and this is where you're either going to get in the playoffs or go home. And what do we find out? Well, we fucking found out that the Colts responded. They went down and they won a tough-ass blood sport battle against, like I said, a team in the Texans that was hot. And remember, the Texans started off 0-3 or 0-4, whichever, but part of that is because they had a tough-ass schedule. They had to fire their coach. They had injuries. I mean, look, they've been through some shit, but they've been on a roll. They've won 3 of the last 4 coming in. Deshaun Watson is playing otherworldly. He would be in the MVP conversation if the Texans actually were winning, had a big winning record. This was real, man. This was real. And the Colts went down there and they fucking responded. Now, let me just tell you something. I heard a lot of people after the game saying something that pissed me off and irritated me. And here's why. Because it's bullshit. I heard a lot of people saying different variations on, the Colts got lucky. They got lucky. They got lucky that Deshaun Watson just fumbled at the end and saved their ass because the Texans were about to win. Well, let me just say this. Let me say what I feel like T.Y. was saying through his incredible 110-yard, 11-catch performance. Fuck luck. Let me tell you something. What you saw, that win wasn't fucking luck. You say, they got lucky because, no, bullshit. Number one, yes, Deshaun Watson, he got a bad snap. He couldn't handle it. It hit his hands. But go back and look at the play. Grover Stewart burst through the line and bore down and rammed into Deshaun Watson so he couldn't just pick the football up. Okay? That was making that play. That's making your own luck. And this is on the 2-yard line with the Texans threatening to go in and score a touchdown that would have put them ahead by a point with just about a minute left to play. And the Colts, who had used all their timeouts, the Colts would have had a minute or less to get down the field and try to kick a field goal to win with no timeouts. So that was fucking winning time. That was a big fucking play. But for the people like, oh, they just got lucky and they fumbled. Bullshit. If that's the case, then the Texans just got lucky that the Colts happened to get called for a bullshit holding penalty on Nyheim Hines' punt return that he took back to the 12-yard line. At that point, the game would have been fucking over, period. Because if the Colts had not scored a touchdown there and gone up by 13, they certainly would have kicked a field goal, a chip shot field goal, and they'd have gone up by 9 points. And that would have been more than the Texans could have gotten in what would have been like maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, maybe even less than 2 minutes left. So don't give me that bullshit about luck. The Texans got lucky when fucking Deshaun Watson pulls one of his magic. That motherfucker is a magician. That motherfucker's a magician. He's like a fucking eel, man. I'll tell you this. You get your hands on him, you have him in the grass, he just slides out of it so smoothly. I'll tell you this. A lot of people talk about Lamar Jackson up in Baltimore. Man, Deshaun Watson is way fucking scarier than Lamar Jackson. He is the fucking truth. But they got fucking lucky because one of their touchdown drives, Deshaun scrambles out, throws a pass. Xavier Rhodes jumps the route, goes up to intercept the ball. It hits his hands, bounces off, and it bounces right to Houston Texans receiver 10 yards down the field. And that sets them up in position to score. So, I don't want to hear that shit about luck. The Colts made their luck. That was a hard fucking game, man. Deshaun Watson is hard to handle. And yet, the Colts picked him off. He hadn't thrown an interception in like 5 games or some shit crazy, amount of time like that. Kenny Moore came up with an unbelievable interception. DeForest Buckner was a fucking one-man wrecking ball. DeForest Buckner had 2 sacks. Justin Houston had 3 sacks and a safety and 2 tackles for loss. DeForest Buckner had 2, 3, 4 tackles for loss. The defense balled the fuck out, considering they held the Texans, who put up 20 points in the first half, to 0 points in the second half. Colts shut them out. Phillip Rivers threw for 285 yards and 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. Nyheim Hines had a great day. Jonathan Taylor ran for 91 yards and 7 yards per carry. Yeah, you heard it right. 7 yards per carry throughout the game. And then last but not least, T.Y. Hilton does what he always fucking does and took over NRG Stadium. T.Y. Hilton, 110 yards, 11 catches, and a touchdown. And man, T.Y. made one of his signature, a catch that we will be watching over and over when he's inducted into the Ring of Honor. The sideline catch that T.Y. made, holding his concentration, reel in the catch, absorbed 2 crushing blows from 2 Houston defenders simultaneously, and then somehow get his second heel to tap down before he went out of bounds, was a fucking thing of beauty. And just a fucking amazing play. So don't talk to me about fucking luck. The Colts went down there and made their luck. Yes, they had some fortuitous bounces on that last one. Yes, there was the call that we're going to talk about, the 4th down call that everybody lost their fucking minds over. I'm going to break down for you what was really going on there and why Frank Reich actually made the right call and the wrong call at the same time. And we're going to talk about what to expect next week and for the rest of the season. But first, before we do that, you know what time it is. We've got to jump into that segment of the podcast and break down for you the good, the bad, and the butt fucking ugly. Now, the good, there was a lot of it in this game. The defense balled out, held the Texans to 0 points in the second half. I talked about a lot of this. T.Y. Hilton at 110 yards. Phillip Rivers balled out. I think Phillip Rivers' QBR was 116 for the game. Jonathan Taylor, Nyheim Hines continued to make play after play. Buckner, T.J. Carey was great, made some incredible plays. Kenny Moore, I heard Rick Venturi talking about this today. I mean, Kenny Moore probably erased 7 points by himself. The interception that he made was at about the Colts 30. The Texans were on their way in for at least a field goal. And then he had 2 passes defense that he knocked down in the end zone that ended up holding the Texans to a field goal instead of a touchdown. So there was some fucking balling going on there. And you know what? Throughout the game, I was really impressed by the defensive adjustment in the second half in particular. But I thought Eberflus called a good game, other than, he came on a serious blitz early on and it bit us in the ass. But he mixed it up pretty well. But even more than that, Frank Reich actually called a really good game. He had some fantastic play calls in there. Now, the bad is the one glaring fucked up play call that Reich made. Now listen, let's talk about the play everybody's talking about. All right. Fourth quarter, 4th and 1 from the Texans 5-yard line. The Colts are leading by 4 points, 24-20. There's about 3.5 to 4 minutes left in the game. Frankie Big Nuts Reich decides to go for it. They go for it. They do not get it. Now, in spite of all the chatter, a lot of people said, they should have just taken the field goal there instead of being greedy, blah, blah, blah. Listen, I understand that. Here's the truth of it, though. Frank made the right call, but the wrong call. He made the right call to go for it. If you look at the analytics, you got about a 68% chance of actually getting a yard there. But even more than that, think about this. This is how you win. This is playing winning football. This is playing to win. You get a 1 yard there. Now you've got a fresh set of downs from the 5. The chances of you scoring a touchdown are very high, and a touchdown puts you up 11 points, with maybe you could burn off 2 minutes there possibly, but at least a minute and a half. So you're going to be up 11 points, and the Texans would have maybe 2 minutes left at maximum. At minimum, maybe a minute left. The game is over at that point. You feel me? But even if you don't get it, then you got the Texans backed up, and they got to go 95 yards to get a touchdown. And even if they do, you're still within 3 points of tying them unless they get the 2-point conversion, right? You get what I'm saying? So it's the right call. The chances are with you. And you can see even how it turned out, even though they didn't get it. 2-3 plays later, they end up sacking Deshaun Watson in the end zone, getting a safety, getting 2 points, getting the ball kicked off to them. And on that kickoff, on that free kick, is when Nyheim Hines catches the ball and has a beautiful run back all the way down to the 12-yard line, which would have effectively ended the game, except Anthony Walker Jr. got called for a hold, which, I mean, look, you can go back and watch it. I'm not a homer from the standpoint of bitching about calls. If the call is accurate, it just is what it is. But, I mean, that was a really kind of ticky-tack. Ooh, that was really kind of a fuckboy call there, just being real about it. I mean, if you call that as a hold, you could pretty much, nobody would ever be able to run a kickoff back. But either way, everything would have turned out fine. And, effectively it did because they won the game. But now here's where Frank Reich also made the wrong call at the same time. The play they called was fucking foobar. That was trash. They ran out, and the thing is, it looked like Phillip Rivers was going to run off the field, anticipating that Jacoby Brissett was going to come on the field, and then they were like, no, you do it. So then he goes back out there. Now you have Nyheim Hines back there, not Jonathan Taylor, who's the person that should have been back there in the short yardage. You also should have had Brissett out there because he's been fantastic in those short yardage situations because he gives you a lot more possibilities than Phillip Rivers. But even if you're going to have Phillip Rivers out there, if you're going to run, which you should not have, because the Texans were sold out to stop the run immediately, they shot all the gaps, sold out to stop the run. Even if you were going to do it, you can't do it with little Nyheim Hines. You got to get your bruiser back there, get Jonathan Taylor, who, by the way, had been killing it in that fourth quarter. And then, if you're not going to get Jonathan Taylor for all that's holy, that's the perfect time to have Phillip Rivers play action fake. There's no way that there wouldn't have been one or two Colts wide open in the end zone for a quick TD pass flip, because the Texans were completely sold out to stop that run. I mean, they really kind of had to be, because there's only a yard or less. So even Frank admitted after the game that he felt he would have done it again in terms of going for it down there, but the play call was not a good one. So that's the bad. Now the ugly, I told y'all, I don't bullshit you here. I'm a diehard Colts fan, but the truth is the truth, and what is. Here's what's ugly. Look, the game should have been over. It should have never even gotten to the Texans fumbling in the final minute and the Colts recovering to win the game. It should have never even got there, because even after everything we talked about, the Colts had a first down with like 2 minutes to go at the 50-yard line, and they had been running the ball down their throats. And instead of being able to get one more first down running the ball and then just run the timeout, they end up 3rd and 23 because of fucking holding penalties, another false start by Pittman. Listen, here's the ugly. These holding penalties, these false starts, these mistakes, at this point, if you take the whole season, you take a look at the whole season, this is a recurring pattern, and I'm telling you, they found some way to survive it against Green Bay when they almost deserved to lose because they had like 6 holding penalties in the final drive, and they almost did it in this one. They found a way to survive it, but I'm telling you, if they don't turn that shit around, that is going to come back and bite them square in their blue horseshoed asses. And it's not going to be pretty, because it's going to end up happening in a real important game, if not the playoffs. And we're all going to be sick. But look, winning teams, good teams, great teams, do not beat themselves. And that means not making fucking mental error penalties. Holding penalties, false starts, illegal shifts. All those shits are mental errors. Those are errors that aren't even caused normally by the other team. They're caused by you. This shit's getting ugly, and it's going to, you mark my words, they don't clean that shit up, they keep doing that, we're going to all be ready to slit our wrist after a game here very soon, because they're going to fuck one away with that type of silly shit. They got to get that fixed. They got to get that fixed. And if they do, here's the truth. I've been telling you guys this from about mid-season, because 6-7 games in, this became clear. And we have seen this over the last 4 or 5 weeks. The Colts are for real. Their defense is elite. Now that we're getting into the last quarter of the season, Their offense is doing what we only hoped that it would do. We hoped that Phillip Rivers and the offense would begin to get in sync and start clicking, and some of the playmakers would emerge, and that's what's happening. That's what's happening. Phillip Rivers is playing the best ball he's played since 2018. He's balling the fuck out. He's looking like an elite franchise quarterback, albeit an older one. Jonathan Taylor is starting to run. He put a beautiful jump cut on yesterday that turned into a 10, 15, 20-yard run that was Marlon Mack-esque. And as soon as I saw it, you go back and watch the game, you know, or if you watch the game, you probably remember the cut I'm talking about. As soon as I saw it, I said, he's getting it. Here we go. Beautiful jump cut. Jonathan Taylor's coming alive. Michael Pittman is on his way up, starting to ball out. Hines is a weapon. The team's getting healthy. Buckner's dominating. We got Autry back. Kenny Moore's playing out of his mind. The Maniac is playing. We got the possible Defensive Rookie of the Year in Julian Blackmon. TJ Carey looked real good yesterday, so we may not have to, be worried all the damn time that Rocky Sin's going to cost us a game. Xavier Rhodes is balling out. Frank Reich's play calling is getting better and better and becoming more consistent every game. Flus is calling it. Look, Rigoberto Sanchez, by the way, he had cancer. He had surgery. Just want to send a shout out to him. I heard the surgery went really well. We saw him cheering the Colts on Sunday, so that's great to see. But Rigoberto was punting great, and it sounds like he might even be able to come back this year. If he does, our special teams have been fantastic. Isaiah Rodgers has been a great return man. Hot Rod is doing his job. This team is ready to roll. This team can make noise if they just stay together, stay healthy, don't get hit by the injury or the COVID bug, God forbid, even worse, at the wrong time. And if they clean the fucking ugly holding penalties, false starts, and mistakes up, this team can beat anybody. And if they play the way they're capable, they're going to go down to Vegas next week. They're going to beat Vegas, and by beating Vegas and going to 9-4, they're going to effectively, they might not clinch on that day, but they're going to effectively punch their ticket into the playoffs. And they're still very much in the race to win this division. Anything can happen over the last 4 games. Tennessee, we've seen this all year. I mean, they've barely won quite a few games, and then they've had games where they just, didn't seem to show up. So this ain't over. This division race ain't over by any means. So trust me. Let's hope the Colts can keep it together. Let's hope they can knock the stupid penalties and mistakes off. And if they do, this ride is going to get a hell of a lot more fun and exciting the rest of this season. And who knows where it ends up in the playoffs, maybe the divisional round, maybe the conference championship, maybe beyond. Either way, I'm going to be right here with you. I appreciate you for being here. Like I said early on, make sure you like, share this video, and subscribe so you can get all of these. Let me know in the comments below. Did I break this game down right? Did I take the right things from it? Am I right that last week's game was just one of those things? Or have I got it wrong? Are the Colts in trouble? What's happening? You let me know. This is the Bullshit Free Colts podcast, baby. I ain't scared of nobody that doesn't agree. I'm not scared of disagreements or debates. That's what we do here. I want to thank you, as always, for being here, and I will see y'all in the next one. And for all the Colts players, coaches, front office staff who are watching, because I know some of y'all do, I'm going to tell you like I always tell you, Let's go get another fucking Lombardi, baby. Peace.